Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. I'm just looking at my desk. There's a reason why this and this are on the desk today. And of course, this great bill is wonderful. I've been saying for a while we need to get back to faith, hope, and charity. But I think I've been misunderstood because tonight we have to talk about cap and trade, Goldman Sachs, and immigration. Al Gore, faith. Faith will save the planet. Cass Sunstein, hope will regulate. And charity, Mr. Jim Wallace, he says don't follow the law. Excuse me? Forget social justice. What do you say we try equal justice for a change? Does anybody in this country remember what that is? Tonight, I'm going to show you the difference between the two, and we're breaking a story on cap and trade, and surprisingly, Goldman Sachs that I challenge the rest of the media to even cover once. Come on, let's go. Oh, boy. We got a lot on our plate today, gang. I want to talk to you a little bit about faith, hope, and charity. You know, we used to seek God's blessings in the country. We used to pursue maximum freedom to solve problems. We would let the little guy do it. We would rely on others in times of needs. Well, now it seems we're being pushed towards what progressives have always found hope in: dependency and regulation. The administration will make everyone dependent, and we can regulate social justice. Average Americans used to call that red tape, and we used to find that abhorrent. Our founding fathers used to call it slavery. So it kind of shocks me when there's no outcry in America to news stories like this one over the weekend. The U.S. is preparing to pivot from domestic regulatory reform to push for a new, tough international capital regime. What does that mean? Oh, new international capital regime. That's a global government. You know, a new world order for your money. We're talking about the foundation of international financial regulations and global governing. What happens if I don't like that global government? How do I vote them out? Where do all those taxes go? Who's getting that tax money? It's a trial balloon, gang, and I can't believe how quiet it is. I mean, when I was growing up, you were not that different. Didn't we used to hate the idea of global? Didn't I remember reading someplace about global government really bad, like spooky bad? I'm not all for that global government thing. Here in America this weekend, the response has been total silence. Am I alone? When I got up this morning, I even heard the Republicans were all for this one. Wow. How does that happen? Oh, I remember. It's those evil, greedy Sith Lord Wall Street executives. You know, like the ones at Goldman Sachs. I want you to know before we start, I had nothing good to say about Goldman Sachs, but I'm not willing to throw Goldman Sachs under the bus when there's an awful lot of people involved in this. Why is Goldman Sachs, that's the question that's been bothering me for the last couple of weeks. Why is Goldman Sachs now the bad guy? Why? You know, they're appearing before the almighty Senate tomorrow to get grilled by the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. It should be a good show. I mean, a good hearing. You know, they're going to call them up about their so-called attempts to manipulate and profit off the crash of the housing market. Did they do that? Probably. I don't know. Is that what caused the collapse? No. Again, why Goldman Sachs? Why Goldman Sachs? Now, they're going to get chewed out tomorrow. They'll be made an example of. Yes, they'll go in front of the Inquisitor himself, Christopher Dodd, who joined in the chorus of Goldman haters on Meet the Press yesterday. Let's watch.
Here we are 17 months after someone broke into our house, in effect, and robbed us, and we still haven't even changed the locks on the doors.
And these off-balance sheet, non-transparent vehicles with what people call implicit guarantees invite these kinds of problems.
We've got to end, once and for all, the casino atmosphere of Wall Street, where they're gambling basically on synthetic ideas and so forth, and with somebody else's money.
Stop gambling on, what do you say, synthetics. So in other words, synthetics, what they did was they bundled all of our mortgages together, and then they put them up on an exchange and bet on them. Yeah, that's bad. But the mortgages did exist, right? That they bundled up, those mortgages existed. They just shouldn't have bet on them. You remember that. You don't want to bundle things up, especially if they're synthetic, and then have people bet on them on an exchange. Boy, Chris, you're right. We better change those locks. But the first thing we should do is we should make sure that the people we're calling, like you, that are going to change the locks, aren't the ones who are somehow also involved in the robbery in the first place. Because if we call the locksmith, you, and say, hey, we were just robbed. Oh, that's a tragedy. I'm going to make sure those locks are changed. It doesn't really help us, because you'll still let the bad guys in. Oh, you might chew the bad guys out, like you will tomorrow with Goldman Sachs. But let me ask you this. If Goldman is the root of all evil, remember, these are the guys, after all these months, our country almost collapsed. And these are the guys. We're finally seeing Goldman Sachs. If Goldman Sachs really are the bad guys, can I ask you a question? Why is it, all those people still work in the administration? See, they're all Goldman Sachs people. We have William Dudley, president of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, managing director and partner at Goldman Sachs. Gary Gensler, chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. The Commodity Futures Commission. Spent 18 years at Goldman Sachs. Then, of course, there's Mark Peterson, chief of staff to Timothy Geithner, former lobbyist for Goldman Sachs. Philip Murphy, nominated for ambassador to Germany, former Goldman executive. And Diana Farrell, deputy director of the National Economic Council, formerly with Goldman Sachs. Don't do it over. Emil Michael, White House fellow, former investment banker, Goldman Sachs. Now, that's just a few. But if Goldman really were the bad guys, wouldn't I say, hey, by the way, you've been in a chop shop, and some of the guys that have been around you have been stealing cars. I don't think I want you guys around advising us on anything. You know what I mean? But if that's the case, if Goldman Sachs, the bad guys, then, gang, we have bigger problems than just regulation. Because I want to take you to hope. Hope, global warming. Yeah, Al Gore. He's going to help us. I want you to know this story originated from a watchdog. And by the way, if you're new to this program, you don't know what a watchdog is, it's you. We got millions of watchdogs. They're all watching. I can't watch everything. I've got a staff that tries to investigate as much as you can, but we're not investigative reporters. It's not what we do. And it doesn't seem to me like there's a lot of people in the media that even want to go down these roads. So I've asked you a while back, would you send me a tweet? Go on Twitter. Get on Twitter and email tips. Tweet a story and an email. Well, we try to look at every single one of them as fast as we can. We try to get as many of them as we can. But this one came from a watchdog about Chicago, and it caught my eye late last week. Chicago and the climate exchange. In case you don't know what the climate exchange is, CCX, Chicago Climate Exchange, you didn't even know it existed. It does. And it started trading in 2003. It is billed as North America's only cap-and-trade system for all 6 greenhouse gases, with global affiliates and projects worldwide. The members voluntarily, but legally, they're bound. They voluntarily get bound to this agreement to meet all annual greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. That's fantastic. Seeing that it is voluntary, I got no problem with it. But it's about to not be voluntary. That's where the problem sets in. So now, I guess before I tell you what this thing is about to become,